Take a deep breath, and let's hear a story about Joanna, a dentist whose golden voice found harmony in love. The soft glow of evening light filtered through the windows of Joanna's dental office as she packed away her instruments for the day. Her gentle fingers, so precise with dental tools, now moved with anticipation, knowing that tonight they would strum guitar strings instead. The familiar scent of antiseptic slowly faded as she spritzed a touch of lavender perfume on her wrists, transforming from Dr. Joanna Miller into simply Joanna, the singer whose voice captivated the locals of Pinewood Creek. Outside, the small town of Pinewood Creek hummed with quiet activity as Joanna walked down Main Street, breathing in the crisp autumn air that carried hints of pine and wood smoke. Storefronts with warm, golden lights created pools of welcome on the sidewalk, while the distant mountains stood silhouetted against the darkening sky, steadfast guardians of this peaceful valley. Joanna's boots tapped a gentle rhythm as she made her way to the Rusty Spur, the country bar where she'd found a second home for her music and her heart. The Rusty Spur welcomed her with a rich aroma of polished wood and the subtle sweetness of spilled beer, a combination that somehow felt like comfort to Joanna after all these years. The bartender, Old Sam, nodded in greeting as she entered, his wrinkled face crinkling into a smile that spoke of countless stories shared over cold drinks and warm conversations. Familiar faces turned to greet her, their eyes lighting up with anticipation for the melodies that would soon fill the room. Joanna's fingers brushed against her guitar case as she settled onto the small stage, the worn leather strap across her shoulder a familiar weight that grounded her before every performance. The wooden stage creaked softly beneath her boots, bearing witness to years of musical dreams and heartfelt lyrics, each board holding memories of songs that had floated up to the timber rafters. The low murmur of conversation created a gentle backdrop as she tuned her guitar, each string vibrating with possibility. The spotlight created a warm circle around Joanna as she began to sing, her voice clear as mountain water as it flowed through the room, weaving stories of love and longing, of sunshine and rain. Time seemed to slow as the audience swayed to her melodies, their worries momentarily suspended in the amber glow of shared music and community. Through the gentle haze of stage lights, Joanna noticed a stranger sitting at the bar, his attention completely captured by her performance, his eyes reflecting something more than casual interest. John Davis had never intended to stop in Pinewood Creek. It was merely a detour on his journey, a place to rest for a night before continuing his wandering life as a traveling musician. The road weariness that had settled into his bones began to dissolve as he listened to Joanna's voice, which reminded him of summer sunsets and promises kept. His calloused fingers, testament to years of playing guitar, tapped unconsciously against his glass, finding the rhythm that complemented her song. The bar seemed to fade away for John, leaving only the woman on stage, whose voice called to something deep within him, like finding an echo of his own musical soul. The gentle creases around his eyes deepened as he smiled, feeling the familiar stirring of inspiration that had been dormant for too long during his solitary travels across dusty highways and forgotten towns. Each note she sang seemed to write itself into his memory, creating harmonies he hadn't yet sung but somehow already knew. Sam noticed John's rapt attention and leaned across the bar with a knowing smile, his voice a gravelly whisper as he shared local knowledge about our Joanna, who fixed teeth by day and mended hearts with her music by night. The ice in John's glass clinked softly as he listened, the cool condensation against his fingers, a contrast to the warmth spreading through his chest with each new detail about the singer whose melody had stopped him in his tracks. As Joanna's set came to an end, the applause washed over her like a gentle wave, carrying appreciation and connection that nourished her spirit after long days of peering into others' mouths. She bowed her head slightly, her chestnut hair catching the light as it fell forward, a curtain of silk that momentarily shielded her from the admiration that sometimes still made her blush. The wooden stage creaked beneath her as she gathered her things, each sound a familiar goodbye until next week. The night air had cooled considerably when Joanna stepped outside for a break, wrapping her cardigan tighter around her shoulders as she gazed up at stars that seemed close enough to touch in the clear country sky. The distant hooting of an owl provided nature's interlude between her sets, a rhythmic reminder of the wild places that surrounded their small town haven. Her breath formed small clouds in the cool air, temporary ghosts that disappeared into the vastness above. John found himself following the trail of Joanna's melody out into the night, drawn by some invisible thread that connected his musician's heart to hers. His approach was respectful, his voice carrying a slight Tennessee drawl as he introduced himself and commended her performance with words that spoke of genuine appreciation rather than rehearsed flattery. The moonlight illuminated their first genuine smiles, cast in silver and shadow as they stood beneath the endless sky. The conversation flowed as naturally as a mountain stream, their shared passion for music creating an instant bridge between two lives that had previously been separate paths. Joanna's laugh, musical even when speaking, mingled with the night sounds as they discovered connections in their tastes, influences and dreams that seemed too perfect to be coincidence. Time slowed as they talked, the stars shifting imperceptibly above them, witnesses to the beginning of something neither had been looking for, but both had been waiting to find. John's suggestion that they try singing together came as naturally as breathing, an inevitable next step in a dance that had begun the moment their eyes met across the bar. Joanna's heart fluttered with a mixture of professional curiosity and something more personal, a recognition of possibility that extended beyond music into uncharted territories of connection. Their fingers brushed as she handed him her guitar, a brief touch that sent a current of warmth up her arm and into her chest where it settled like a newly kindled flame. The next evening found them on the small stage together, their voices finding each other in the space between notes, creating harmonies that seemed to have existed long before they ever met. The audience at the Rusty Spur fell into a hushed reverence as Joanna and John's duet filled the room with something new and yet somehow familiar, like a forgotten melody suddenly remembered. Their shadows merged on the wooden floor, two silhouettes becoming one in the amber spotlight. Weeks passed in a blur of evening performances and daytime conversations that stretched for hours, punctuated by laughter and the occasional brush of hands that grew more intentional with each passing day. Joanna found herself rushing through her dental appointments, her mind wandering to lyrics and arrangements instead of focusing on bicuspids and molars. The antiseptic smell of her office began to feel increasingly foreign compared to the earthy scent of guitar strings and John's cedar cologne. John extended his stay in Pinewood Creek, finding reasons to postpone his departure with each sunset that found him still seated across from Joanna at the local diner, sharing dreams over coffee that had long grown cold. His travel-worn guitar case gathered dust in the corner of his rented room, no longer packed and ready for a quick departure as it had been for years of nomadic existence. The call of the road grew fainter as the pull of Joanna's presence grew stronger, redefining his concept of home. Their repertoire expanded along with their feelings, original songs emerging from late-night writing sessions where emotional walls came down as rhymes and chords went up. Joanna's living room became their sanctuary, scattered with handwritten lyrics and empty teacups, the soft ticking of her grandfather clock marking time that now seemed precious rather than merely passing. The songs they created together held truths neither had been brave enough to speak aloud, their music becoming the language of their deepening connection. The first invitation to perform outside Pinewood Creek arrived like a messenger from the future, promising possibilities that tantalized and terrified them equally. A bar owner from the neighboring town had heard rumors of the magical duo and offered them a weekend spot with actual pay rather than just tips and free drinks. The decision to accept required only a brief glance between them, a silent communication that had become as natural as breathing. Their first small tour of regional bars brought a taste of both freedom and fear as Joanna took her first ever sick days from the dental practice that had defined her professional identity for years. The open road stretched before them like a question mark, while small town venues welcomed them with varying degrees of enthusiasm and compensation. Hotel rooms with thin walls and lumpy mattresses became temporary homes, yet neither complained as they watched the sunrise from unfamiliar windows, whispering about the previous night's performance. An unexpected offer came after a particularly inspired performance at a bar where a music festival organizer happened to be drinking away his divorce sorrows. Through his personal cloud of melancholy, their harmonies had reached him, offering a reminder of beauty still existing in a world that had recently shown him its harsher side. His business card, slightly beer-stained, promised a larger stage and a broader audience than they had dared to imagine. The conversation about leaving their stable lives behind happened organically over several weeks, beginning as hypothetical musings and gradually solidifying into serious plans with practical considerations. Joanna's dental colleagues expressed shock tinged with poorly concealed envy when she submitted her resignation, while John made calls to cancel the few standing gigs that had anchored his wandering lifestyle. Their separate paths merged completely as they packed their essentials into John's weathered truck, leaving furniture and conventions behind. The American landscape unfolded before them like a living map, each state line crossed marking another boundary left behind. Desert sunsets painted the sky in impossible colors that matched the expanding palette of their emotions, while mountain ranges reminded them of both their smallness and their significance in the grand scheme of creation. Hotel pools offered respite from summer heat, their skin cooling as their professional reputation warmed with each successful performance. Their music evolved as they traveled, absorbing influences from each place they visited, incorporating local stories and regional sounds that enriched their growing collection of original songs. Gas station coffees and roadside diners became as familiar as Joanna's former dental office had once been. The routine of setting up and breaking down their equipment, a new kind of stability. Small venues led to larger ones as word spread through the network of country. Music enthusiasts and bar owners always looking for fresh talent. The first time they heard their song on a local radio station, they pulled the truck to the side of the road and sat in stunned silence, hands clasped tightly as their voices came through the speakers like visitors from another world. Joanna's eyes filled with tears that reflected the setting sun, each droplet containing visions of all the parallel lives she wasn't living now that she had chosen this path with John. The announcer's voice followed their song, mispronouncing their names but sounding genuinely enthusiastic about this exciting new duo. Their relationship deepened alongside their musical partnership, professional respect blossoming into profound love that neither had expected to find at this stage of their lives. Moonlit conversations in countless parking lots after performances revealed layers of themselves previously hidden, creating a tapestry of shared understanding, woven with threads of vulnerability and acceptance. The small space of the truck cab became an intimate universe, where they planned future songs and tentatively began planning a shared future beyond the music. Winter found them in Nashville, the heartbeat of country music calling them toward greater opportunities while testing their resolve with increased competition and industry politics they had been sheltered from in smaller venues. Their hotel room became a war room for strategy sessions and a bunker during moments of doubt, the walls absorbing whispered fears and determined declarations in equal measure. Through it all, they remained each other's constant, finding strength in harmonies that extended beyond music into every aspect of their partnership. Spring arrived with a contract offer from a boutique record label that appreciated their authentic sound and wasn't interested in transforming them into something more commercially palatable, but less true. The signing celebration was modest champagne in paper cups in a park where dogwood blossoms floated down like musical notes around them. Birds provided backup vocals to their laughter as they toasted to a future neither could have imagined 2 years earlier when fate disguised as chance brought them together in the Rusty Spur. The recording studio became their new dental office, and Open Road combined a place of precision and possibility where their songs were polished into gems without losing the organic quality that made them special. Sound engineers with experienced ears marveled at the natural blend of their voices, requiring minimal technical intervention to achieve the warm, intimate sound that had become their signature. Joanna's fingers, once so adept at dental tools, now moved confidently across studio equipment, learning the new instruments of their trade. Their first album release brought a modified version of touring, more organized, better accommodated, but still carrying the thrill of connection with audiences who now sang their lyrics back to them with passionate familiarity. Hotel rooms improved in quality, but maintained their temporary nature, each space becoming home for just long enough to recharge before the next performance. The rhythms of this life felt increasingly natural, the strangeness of constant movement replaced by the comfort of consistent purpose. Returning to Pinewood Creek for a special hometown concert created a full-circle moment. The stage of the rusty spur now feeling smaller, but infinitely more significant than when they had last performed there. Old Sam stood behind the bar with proud tears in his rheumy eyes, serving commemorative cocktails, named after their songs, to a packed house of locals and music journalists who had made the trip to witness the homecoming. Former dental patients cheered with extra enthusiasm, their healthy smiles flashing in the familiar amber lighting. Fame found them in a gentle, sustainable way that allowed for private moments amidst public adoration. Enough recognition to fill venues, but not so much that they couldn't enjoy breakfast in diners without constant interruption. Their music reached people in meaningful ways, becoming the soundtrack to weddings, road trips, and quiet evenings at home for listeners who found their own stories in the lyrics. Fan mail brought tales of how their songs had provided comfort during difficult times, adding purpose to their art beyond personal fulfillment. The proposal happened naturally during a rare break from touring at a lakeside cabin they had rented to decompress and work on new material. John's carefully planned speech dissolved into simple, heartfelt words as they sat on the dock watching the sunset paint the water with golden light. Joanna's yes was as melodic as her singing, hanging in the air between them before they sealed the promise with a kiss that tasted of future and forever. Their wedding combined country simplicity with musical celebration, taking place in a converted barn where wildflowers and guitar picks served as decorations. Fellow musicians provided the soundtrack, each song a gift from friends they had made along their journey through the industry. Joanna's dental colleagues sat alongside music producers, the different chapters of her life merging into a cohesive story with John as the perfect co-author. Dancing continued until dawn, feet sore but hearts full. Home became a small ranch outside Nashville, close enough to the industry but removed enough to maintain the peace they both required for creativity to flourish. Rocking chairs on the porch hosted songwriting sessions and quiet evenings, watching fireflies perform their own light show across the property. The spare bedroom transformed into a home studio where they could record demos and sometimes complete tracks without leaving their sanctuary, technology allowing for connection without constant travel. Their decision to start a family coincided with a shift in their professional approach: fewer tour dates, more selective performances, and increased focus on songwriting for both themselves and other artists. Joanna's nurturing nature, once directed toward anxious dental patients, now prepared to embrace motherhood with the same compassionate attention. John's steady presence, a balm to her occasional doubts, promised partnership in this new creative endeavor, as in all others they had undertaken. The news of their child's impending arrival inspired a lullaby album that showcased their harmonies in their most gentle iteration. Songs of protection and promise woven with melodies that seemed to come from some ancestral memory of what comfort should sound like. Recording sessions took on a sacred quality as Joanna sang with hands resting on her growing belly, feeling occasional movements that seemed to respond to particular chord progressions with appreciative kicks. Parenthood arrived with the same mixture of terror and joy that had accompanied their leap into full-time musicianship, sleepless nights balanced by moments of transcendent connection with their daughter, whose cries and coos became the most important sounds in their world. They took turns walking the floors at night, singing harmonies that drifted through the ranch house like audible love made manifest in perfect thirds and fifths. Their audience of one proved the most discerning and rewarding yet. As years passed, their music evolved to encompass the expanded range of emotions that partnership and parenthood had introduced into their lives, songs gaining depth without losing the authentic quality that had always been their hallmark. Their daughter grew up backstage and in recording studios, developing her own musical talents in an environment where creativity was as essential as breathing. The family harmonies, now a trio, created ripples of joy that extended far beyond their listeners to touch lives they would never know. Joanna sometimes reflected on the path not taken, the alternate life where she might still be peering into mouths and missing the fuller expression of her musical gifts. These moments of contemplation always led to profound gratitude for the courage that both she and John had found to follow the harmonies of their hearts rather than the safer melodies of convention. Each evening, as their voices blended in song or conversation on the porch of their ranch home, the certainty settled deeper some detours are actually destinations, and sometimes the most beautiful journeys begin with a single verse in a small town bar.